I cannot believe I'm saying this. If Everton beat Manchester United this weekend, they will be 4 points clear. And I'm not saying because it's Manchester United. I'm saying because where were Everton 6 weeks ago to where they are now? They've won 4 of their last 5 games, including the draw in the Merseyside derby. And on the flip side, Manchester United just lost to Spurs, and they were dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, you see in here really what a good manager who's very motivated and very passionate about the club can do with players who also care and want to fight for the badge, compared to mercenaries who are only bothered about money, and a manager who is completely out of his depth. And that is what you're seeing. I mean, I think we could all suspect, anyone who watched football could suspect, that David Moyes would come back in at Everton and do a very good job, because we know that he has love for the club. We know he's pragmatic, and we know that he will play to the players' best abilities, and that's not what's happening at Manchester United at all. You've got a new manager in there who is managing at a level that he is very unused to. The difference between Sporting and Manchester United, no disrespect, Sporting are a big club in Portugal and they have good European pedigree, but it's not Manchester United, and it's not the pressure that comes with that. And I think his duties so far, I think he's failed in his responsibility. I don't think he's looking at the players there, and you look at that team, that's £1 billion squad. And he's not playing to the best of any of their abilities. He's trying to fit them all into a system which clearly doesn't work and isn't working, and the players are uncomfortable with. And I think this is very much like a battle of heart in Everton against a Manchester United team who really lack any sort of heart. They lack any sort of desire in games. I think that Spurs game, we were discussing it off air, like, Spurs are so easy to get at. You make one big tackle in midfield and you can attack them. But Manchester United didn't really bother. They didn't seem like they actually cared that much about winning the game, and that's what's disappointed me, because these are players who are being paid a lot of money and who should be fighting for the shirt, and they're not.
I said it when I was watching the game when Garnacho had that chance where he put in Rosette, and I thought to myself, if he was, and no disrespect to him because I think he will come good, but if he was in the red and white of Southampton or the white and black of Fulham, then nobody cares about that moment. Yeah. And I think because he's in the red of Manchester United and people are going, oh, he could have scored that. But if you think about his track record, and I think they are running into this problem a lot, his track record suggests he's going to miss that chance. Yeah. And if you look at Manchester United's last 4 league games, last 5 games, they've scored 2 obviously in the Europa, scored 2 against Leicester, but Maguire's goal was offside, didn't score against Palace, didn't score against Tottenham, and scored a deflected goal against Fulham. This team can't score goals.
Who they need for this game is Marcus Rashford. He loves it against Everton. He scored 5 in his last 5 against Everton for Manchester United. Obviously, he's playing in the claret and blue of Aston Villa and playing decent football as well. But it's the team, because you pointed out Garnacho, and it's ironic that we're talking about a game against Everton. Last year against Everton, scored one of the greatest goals in Premier League history. But he's regressed, and he's a player that I believe has got incredible ability. Maybe he needs to improve certain aspects of his game, but I think he's got the ability to be a top player. Same as Kobe Mainoo, who we're going to talk about in a separate video. I think he's got the ability to be a top player. But nobody, when they put on a Manchester United shirt, looks like a good footballer. And that can't just be a coincidence. They can't all be terrible players. There is something culture-wise, there's something inherent that is holding some of these players back, because you're not telling me that all of these players are terrible footballers. I know that their intentions in terms of signing for Manchester United could be questioned, but they are footballers at the end of the day who have ability, and did have ability when they played for the previous clubs. I'm not here bigging up Anthony, but look at his record since going to Betis. Look at his 4 goals and assists in 3 games. He was never hitting those numbers at Manchester United. Granted, easier league. Granted, he's more of the man in that system. He's starting games. But there is something toxic at that football club that I thought that Ruben Amorim could fix. We both did. I don't think he can. And you look at the juxtaposition between these two sides, they're at different planes right now. Everton are going that way and Man United going that way, and I don't see things changing this weekend.
That then leads me to think, like, what's the best possible outcome in this scenario? Because, as I said at the top of the video, if Everton go 4 points clear of United, I genuinely don't see a point where United will claw that back. So that would mean United are going to finish in the bottom 5 at some point.
I think the league position is irrelevant. I mean, we discussed it on the video last week. I think it doesn't really matter for Manchester United because they're not going to be able to get into Europe. So anything is going to be a failure. And you ask any of the fans who've watched their performances this year, whether they finish 10th or 14th, it's still going to be as painful because they have been horrible to watch and they aren't playing for the shirt and they aren't putting in the effort. I think United do have a good chance of having a moderately successful season if they win the Europa League, because we do know that they are a cup team. You know, they've won the FA Cup against Manchester City last year. No one expected that to happen. They had a relatively poor season and beat the best team in the country. So I do think that there is an avenue for Man United to have a little bit of success. But I do think that Amorim just needs to sort his ideas out before the transfer window, because it's very clear that United are probably going to make wholesale changes in the summer. We know that Amorim has this very fixed style of play, and United players at the moment obviously can't adhere to that. So I think you might just need to be a little bit more pragmatic, and that's what we're seeing on the other side. We're seeing David Moyes. He probably doesn't have the exact players that he wants. He doesn't have his big Fellaini or Thomas Souček style play. He might do in Alcaraz now, but he's got better. But he's being pragmatic, and this is not his team. He doesn't know any of these players, and he's come in. He's figured out what their strengths are, and he's just using that to elevate themselves up the league, which I don't think Amorim is doing.
So then I would ask the question to almost play devil's advocate to what Kim just said there. When Ten Hag was in the job, everyone said adapt. He adapted, lost his principles, and everyone absolutely slandered him for it afterwards. And I think Amorim himself has said, this is how I play, this is what I do, and this is what I'm known for, and I'm not going to change. So then if he starts now adapting, then we're probably going to say, hold on a minute, you're doing exactly what Ten Hag did.
No, yeah, he needs to stick to his principles to an extent, but Man United need to be getting results. That's the problem. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm always of the belief that if you're a manager, you stick to your principles, and if the results aren't going your way, then it's then incumbent on the board or management above you to sack you or get rid of you because you're not getting results. But I think when you start to flip-flop and change your principles, the messaging dilutes the players and you start to lose respect in the dressing room. I think we saw that from Ten Hag. And so with Amorim, it's not working, and I would like to see a little bit more flexibility. For example, I always bring it back to this example. Arteta had his principles, but he also had his players when he first came into Arsenal, and he had to adjust. He played three at the back, was a little bit more pragmatic. He is a pragmatic manager at his core, and they won the FA Cup. I know you said league positions don't matter, but the stick that we used to beat Arsenal fans with is, Arteta finished 8th, then 8th and 5th. Man United could finish 18th. And I know that it doesn't matter. There's no difference between finishing 17th and finishing 9th because it means the same. But it will be a stick to beat Manchester United fans with for years and years to come. They end up finishing 16th in the league. They're Man United. That's the equivalent of me looking at the Bundesliga and seeing Bayern Munich sitting at 16th.
They're not anymore. They're not Man United anymore. They are by name, but not by anything else.
And that's what I think is the most shocking thing to people, because there's some teams that you think should be impervious to this kind of thing happening. You look at Real Madrid, you look at Barcelona, you look at Bayern Munich. Barcelona, who've gone through financial turmoil, are still never going to finish outside the top four. And you look at Man United in terms of the financial juggernaut that they were and how far ahead they were of everybody else in terms of commercial-wise. Why are they sitting in the bottom half of the table? And that's why I think it's so shocking. That's why I think when you see pundits and ourselves go on TV or go on screen and talk about it, we say they're Man United, because growing up, they ruined my childhood, and I never thought that I'd see them in the bottom half of the table after 25 games.
I think I agree with you both. I think there is a world where Manchester United finishing 15th is irrelevant and doesn't matter, and they can scrap this season. But we've sort of spoken about this off air and said we thought Amorim was going to fix this, and I genuinely think this as well. If he isn't the guy who fixes this, it might be the end of this club. Like you're saying there, but it's not Manchester United. It's not Manchester United, but it can still feel that way. But I think if he is gone. There is no more Manchester United are scary, Old Trafford.
But it's also what exactly are you expecting them to be? You're expecting them to be the Man United of the early 2000s, where they would regularly win every league.
No, I think.
But I mean, at the moment, still they have good support. They get regularly good attendance. They regularly win cups. That's a good football team. We might think that they're failing massively because we have this nostalgic notion of Manchester United always being the best. But football changes. Everton won the league in the 70s. City went 40 years without a trophy and have now won 6 in the last 7. Football changes and it's cyclical, and we expect Manchester United to have just stayed at the top forever. But they've had terrible owners who've made terrible decisions for the last 15 years. So they're not going to be that club anymore. So whether they finish 15th, you might beat them you might beat the fans with a stick, and it's really funny, especially for me as a City fan. United ruined my childhood as well, not just yours. Yeah. And it's fantastic to see them where they are as a fan. But at the same time, we just have to accept that maybe this is just the new normal now.
But the new normal, when Liverpool were going through it, remember Liverpool were the most dominant team in the 70s and 80s, not just in England, but in Europe. The doldrums weren't this. Liverpool was still, I think, the lowest they'd be finishing is 8th in the Premier League, and they had some really poor footballers. This is abnormal, and the level of dominance that Man United exerted over the rest of the league in terms of their draw, their pulling power, their ability to pay players was that of a team that you didn't think would ever be able to be caught, and they have been caught, and they are now one of the worst teams in the Premier League, which is just insane to think about.
The one thing that I don't have an answer for, and I genuinely don't understand it, is I feel like there is a curse on the club at the moment because, as you mentioned, like the players that they bring in are always better before and after they go to United, but the position is so strange because they spend so much money, and not every transfer can be bad. But Anthony can't have been a terrible player because he's just gone to Betis, and as you say, it might be an easier league, but he's showing signs of being a fantastic footballer. So what happens when you walk through those doors?
Honestly, I think the one thing that football fans don't really talk about is environment. Like, I think if you put like anyone in the right environment, they'll be able to swim or find a way out of it. I think at Manchester United, like, whoever gets added to their environment, the environment is so bad that they're not going to survive. Like, say, like Cole Palmer, for example, went from City, fantastic environment, but not an environment for him. Goes to Chelsea, and that's now his environment. And now, and I said this before as well. If he stays at City, or maybe even if he goes to like Brighton, we don't see this Cole Palmer. He goes to the right team at the exact right time and becomes the man that we know now. And I think at Manchester United now, like, there is not a player in the world, genuinely, like, put Lamine Yamal in that team, and I do not think we'll see what we see at Barca, because this whole entire, like, club is just in an awful place.
I know that we have to do score predictions, but really quickly, I know there's not a player. I agree with you because football is situational, and for players where it's like a coach's game right now, it's very difficult for a single player to go and really influence the team in terms of getting wins on the board. But for example, say Pep Guardiola went to Manchester United and they gave him everything that he wanted. Do you think he could turn things around on the club?
Yeah, but that's because he brings a culture and a character with it, I think. I think, like...
But surely it's incumbent on the managers to change the culture.
But I think what happens is these guys come in, like, we're comparing Guardiola and Amorim, let's say. Okay. But Guardiola's won every trophy in the back. Let's say we put Slot in that job at the start of the season. Slot is doing exactly what Amorim's doing. Might do it slightly better than he is, might do it slightly worse, but the general feeling at the club is exactly the same. Slot went into Klopp's Liverpool, everything was set. Even he said that I went in, I didn't have to change anything. He said, I took a few of my Dutch boys, everyone got a ball trim, and now this is my team. But otherwise, he was
everyone put the swimming caps on.
Otherwise, he was like, it was just a gift for me, basically. Yeah. Anyone who goes to Manchester United now, like Amorim's situation right now, we've spoken about it so many times, but if I look at that 11, I don't want any of those players in my team. Even on their best day, I don't want any of those players in my team. And that, for me, is already, like, a massive problem. And then on top of that, you got the roofs leaking and everything else, and the noise around Manchester United. I honestly think any manager goes there, unless it's Guardiola. I don't know. Like, I was going to say, get Sir Alex in there, but I think even he would drown right now. Like, it's such a bad...
Ancelotti would drown there as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that's why I think no one singular player could save this team. Score predictions.
Everton win this one. Yeah, Everton win this one. They do, like, there is no... It's not a quirky, Everton are favourites. They are genuine favourites, and they should win this one pretty comfortably. I'm going for a 2-1 Everton win.
Yeah, 2-0 for me. They've got the dog in them, and United really don't.
Yeah, I think 2-0, but I think United are going to get absolutely battered. Every long ball is going to be a horrible day.